okay? Moving from one very, very oppressive regime, or like getting out from under a very oppressive situation, and then charting a new territory. And the reason why I say this is we have here the Hierophant. This is like a situation where somebody has to give a part of their harvest, a part of themselves, a part of whatever money they make, paying tribute to somebody who has that sense of entitlement. Like, you know, they're either ruling over you, and they're like, okay, you have to do it this way and only exactly this way. Or you have to, you know, on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis, pay your tribute to another person. And that was just the way things were. That was like the rule of the land, or that was like the law of the land. And no one dared to question it, okay? So like somebody's taking, I feel like, either your energy, your financial resources, and you felt like this was the only way to do things, okay? You never question the established order. The Hierophant is greatly about institutions, long-standing institutions that have been in place for a very, very long time. They're very rigid, very resistant to change. And because they've been around for so long, they might not be relevant in present time, but people don't question it because it's thought of as, you know, this is the way things are, and this is the way we've been doing them for hundreds and hundreds of years, and this is the way things are going to be. So no one dare to really question it, okay? But it creates, I feel, a very oppressive atmosphere, and it creates almost like an unfair sense of balance when it comes to I almost feel like the poor giving to the rich. And I almost feel like, you know, whoever's on top is exploiting the situation and exploiting the fact that others have to pay homage or have to pay tribute out of their own pockets in order to gratify somebody else on top. And so it creates a situation where things are very, very unbalanced. And if we're not talking about this in terms of, you know, financial resources, we're talking about energy. We're talking about, you know, spiritually, you're very drained, okay? This was a very oppressive system. Whoever is writing you, whoever is like ordering you around, or I also feel like whoever has been, I'm sensing, you're working under even. And then I'm also sensing as well family obligations, okay? I'm also sensing like expectations from people just because by virtue of being your family, they feel like they have the right to, you know, dip into your financial resources. So I definitely feel in a way you guys might have been subsidizing a situation that really drained you financially, emotionally, spiritually. You were not happy. You were not happy. And you were trying to find a way out, okay? How do I maintain this? So if we're looking at, this is the Four of Pentacles. If we're looking at it in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, it's the guy holding the pentacles, one on his head, two on the floor, and then two on his hands, right? He's grasping and trying to protect everything that is his. And he's looking at this mountain and he's like, I want to get on top of that mountain, but at the same time, I want to carry all of these resources with me. I want to carry all of these things that matter to me with me. How do I do that without, you know, how do I successfully do that? Because if you look at all that overgrowth, right, and if you're trekking through the forest trying to get to the mountaintop, you're going to need your hands and your feet to be free so that you can pull yourself up if you happen to fall, so that you can grasp at branches and trees to kind of like help you hoist yourself up to the top of the mountain. And you're not able to do that because you're holding on to earthly things. And I feel like this is a situation you've been pondering for quite some time. You know, I want to get on top of the mountain, and what is really holding me back? What is really preventing me from making that move? What is really, you know, stopping me from taking that first step? So you've been thinking about this for a long while, trying to trek to the mountain, but you're not really making any strides. And I feel like what's preventing you, or what's really hindering your path, was this. This is the Nine of Swords, okay? This is sleepless nights. Getting nightmares, overthinking, overanalyzing situations. But I also think of this card as like constantly thinking about worst case scenario, dwelling on the negatives, and the negative thought patterns. A lot of the times they turn into self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so it's sort of like you're in your head thinking about, how do I successfully get on top of that mountain? And rather than thinking about and focusing on logically, step one, I need to do this. Step two, I need to do that. And step three, I need to, formulate some type of plan. And I feel like for many of you, this process, this is like a lot of thoughts, okay? Each sword stands for like a mental thought. And I feel like for many of you, you've been mired in this situation where your demons are getting the best of you. You're thinking about problems rather than separating. Each problem exists in its own little bubble. But rather than thinking, some of these problems are outside of my control, some of them are not, and the ones that are not outside of my control, I really should focus on that. I feel like you're conflating, or you're mixing and mixing all these problems together, and they become this really embedded, right? This sense of embeddedness, all stuck together, all causing you a lot of anxiety, all seem very, very daunting. It's like, how do I get to the top of the mountain when I'm only at the base? And so as soon as you feel inspired, you're like, I'm going to do it today. Something happens to hold you back. And a lot of it is these, self-limiting thoughts and beliefs and thought patterns. And I feel like you are making mountains out of molehills. You're making a situation a lot more daunting than it has to be, mainly because you're not looking at problems in isolation. And what I mean by that is, let's say, first of all, you have a big plan that you want to get off the ground, right? The first thing that people logically that we should do is think about how much overhead costs, or how much costs, is associated with this. So that means you might need to do some preliminary research to figure out what your budget is and how much this project is going to cost. Okay. And then you're going to go out and kind of crowdsource, brainstorm from other people and figure out, hearing from experts or getting advice, to get a price range of how much this is going to cost, who I should talk to get this off the ground. So each of those steps need to exist in isolation. And I feel like you're jumping the gun. You want to get to the top, but you're not thinking about each of the steps that are necessary in order to get there. So I feel for some of you, there's a situation here that it seems like it's running ahead of you, and it's like the longer you wait, the further and further and further away it is from you. It's almost like you're losing your grasp. You can't really get it back. You can't really draw it back into your orbit because it's distancing itself. Okay. So I also feel like for some of you, this is a person, okay, who might be distancing themselves. And I also feel like there's a lot of guilt associated with the relationship between you and this person. For some of you, it could be a family relationship. For others, it could be like a love type of a relationship. And I feel like it's escaping your grasp. And I also feel there's a lot of guilt associated with it. Like, I should have done things differently. I should have told them how I felt. I should have, I should have given them the time of day, or I should have, done things just differently. I should have invested more time, more emotions into that. I should have let them know how I feel. I should have been upfront and honest with them. And I feel like, they're escaping your orbit. Okay. So I definitely feel like there's some guilt associated with it. Going back to your main storyline, what I do sense here is there is a huge, this is like impetus, this is drive, ambition. Okay, we have here the King of Wands, and this usually indicates somebody who's like in charge of their domain. He's scanning the horizon, looking out at the abundance that he has created for not only his empire, for himself, but for all the people that he rules. Okay, this is someone who's very, very responsible. The way I'm reading this energy is that you're in a great, powerful position of leadership. Okay. You care about the people that have been very loyal to you. You care about their well-being. And I feel like it's almost like ruling with a very benevolent hand. Okay. Understanding that I'm not going to exploit this power differential. If you do well, I do well, and our kingdom is going to do well. So understanding that even if others pay tribute to you, you can't exploit that relationship. You can't exploit the power differential to keep them oppressed. You have to kind of like take care of the people that are under you. And I feel like many of you, you're coming into a profound sense of it's like understanding how power needs to be controlled. There was a situation here where someone in a position of power was very tyrannical, controlling, and exploited that power of position. And we're shifting away from that into a new way of doing, like a paradigm shift, where someone in a position of power is very benevolent, okay? They can be hard if they want to because the King of Wands is very much authoritative, okay? But this person is also very paternal. They take care of people. They're very loyal to their subjects. And because of that, they garner a lot of respect and trust from their subjects. They're seen as someone who is not afraid to get their hands dirty if push comes to shove. And they're seen as someone who, you know, is constantly very vigilant, sees all, resolves problems, and really, really care about the well-being of other people. So I feel like you're understanding how power is to be used rather than abused. You're understanding as well that, you know, taking care of the people that matter to you or the people that have been very, very loyal to you, treasuring, valuing, and being available to those people means a lot more to you now. And what's on top of this card here is the Six of Pentacles. And the Six of Pentacles this is a major, major card about karma, okay? This is a situation where the poor is paying tribute to the rich to the point where they're financially, emotionally depleted, okay? Giving to a situation where you're no longer taking care of yourself. You're just going to work. You're just getting through life in order to have the resources to pay that tribute. And now we're coming into this sense of like total rebalancing of karma, the karmic scale. Things being done the right way, okay? This is like giving back to the community, giving back to others, giving to others who are less fortunate. And this is also, it comes with a paradigm shift where we're understanding the importance and the necessity of, you know, being a benevolent ruler. You can still rule with an iron fist, but you can still be loving and warm and gentle and benevolent. And you can also, you know, give back to the people, especially that really need it. For many of you, I'm seeing major career changes here. Some of you might be in that corporate environment and you're just like, no, this is too taxing, too stale. I'm already at the top and I don't like the vibe. I don't like the atmosphere. I don't like the environment where, it's like a social, you know, like the climbing that corporate ladder, getting yourself to the top. And once you've made it to the top and you have this bird's eye view and you're just like, this is not really jiving with me. This is not where I want to be. And this is not something that I want to do long term. And so I'm seeing a major career path, a major shift where you are possibly working more at the grassroots level and thinking about what you need to do long term and what you need to kind of, what you need ultimately to be happy. And so I'm seeing some of you thinking about major change in your career, a major shift of focus when it comes to like how do you yield power, how a good leader is supposed to rule, how to be a good supervisor, how to be a good leader, how to, you know, inspire others rather than like oppress others. Okay, so this is really cool. You know, Capricorns are oftentimes like seen as people who are like who are very like career ladder oriented, and they're seen as people who will throw other people under the bus. If, and I've heard this, okay, and this is not something that I believe about you guys, Capricorn, but I feel like in the spirit of, you know, ambition, like in the pursuit for power and wealth and prestige, we're all capable of throwing other under the bus in order to get what we want. And I feel like, you know, being that goat on the crevices of mountains, and you know, you never falter. You jump from one small crevice to the next, and you always land on your feet, and you know how to do it well, and you know how to do it very, very stealthily and very, you know, successfully. But I feel like once you get to the top of the mountain, you're just like, oh, that's it, I'm already here, and you're looking for the next mountain to conquer. And I feel like there needs to be a little bit of a paradigm shift regarding, you know, what is the ultimate end goal? Is it just to prove to myself that I can conquer mountain after mountain? Or is it, you know, or should there be more of a humanitarian slant to the work that I'm doing, trying to help others, trying to, you know, once you're on top of that mountain, I feel like you're in the best position to tell other people what the view from that mountain looks like, okay? And you're able to tell others, I've been there and here's what I learned. And here is how you can, you know, get there because I've been there. And here are the things that you should avoid. And I know this because I'm speaking from personal experience. So I feel like you have a wealth of experience and knowledge because you have already been there and done that. But for some reason in the past, you might not have shared this technique with other people. So we're moving into this month where you are becoming a lot more generous, where you are sharing your hard-earned lessons. You're sharing it with other people to save them from having to do the legwork, to save them from having to reinvent the wheel. And I feel like in the past you might have shared it, but in a very Capricornian, you know, like a man of few words type of way. You should do it like this. But I feel like you have to soften that approach a little bit and tell others, hey, I'm telling you to do this because I've done it. Okay. I've been there. I've done everything that you have done and it didn't really work out. And here are the reasons why. And I've done it this other way and it worked out in half the time. And so framing it like that to allow others to understand that you're not just speaking from, you know, you're not just talking to talk. You're talking with skills and expertise and years of experience backing up everything that you say. And I feel like that's going to save somebody, you know, a lot of legwork. They don't have to reinvent the wheels. They can work off of what you're working off of, okay? I do feel for many of you, there is a situation here in your life, a very long-standing relationship that might have gone a little bit sour, okay? And we have a situation here where there was a vow, there was a promise, okay? And the promise was kind of like to death do us part. Okay, the promise was for partnership longevity. For some of you, this could be somebody that you know, you have known for a really long time. They know your family. You've took them around to introduce them to your family. They've taken you around to introduce you to their family, vice versa. This is a partnership where two people might have known each other since childhood. There is a tremendous degree of like trust. Okay, you know this person inside and out, and you trust this person wholeheartedly. They likewise know you inside and out. And then I also feel like there's a immense sense of like trust, love, respect, and you know the whole nine yards. Like that whole ball of it's like all the reasons that you have for caring about this person, for trusting them. Everything is so like embedded. Okay, like the shared experience, the shared ambition, the shared dreams. Like the two of you feel almost as if you have been through so much together. There might have been a recent breach in trust. There might have been a situation where I feel, Capricorn, somebody is either living with a lot of guilt. It could be you, it could be them, over something that was done. Okay. And I feel like it's sort of like, you know, there are so many reasons why the other person trusts you and you trust the other person. But at the same time, one unexpected move, one action that is done out of character can really make you or the other person distrust the future, the viability, and the continuity of this friendship, this business relationship, or this relationship. So I feel almost like there was something that was done in poor taste, in poor judgment, and it left like a bitter taste in somebody's mouth, okay? And things can never go back to the way they were. It's like everything that was said was said. You can't take back words. It's like, the water from the chalice, from the cups have been spilled. And the other person might be the one walking away, and they're just like, I don't want to fix it. It's already spilled. I'm not going to go downstream 2 miles away to refill those cups. I'm not going to trek up the mountain to the clearest spring to fill up those goblets, okay? So I feel like there was a situation where it can be fixed, but somebody, you or the other person, is like, I wash my hands of this. I'm not putting any more time in it, and I feel like it's leaving the other party very, very, very sad, very upset. And it's also this sense of overwhelming acceptance, okay? Like, oh, it could be fixed. They just didn't want to. And I feel like that says a lot, okay? But I feel in the wake of this, people leaving so new adventures can await for you, so that new boats, new ships, new people can be coming into the picture. And so while this has happened, and it's not something that you want to happen because you guys are very, very, I almost feel like you're scorpionic in the way that you value relationships, especially relationships with people that you have known your whole life, okay? You are a clinger as well to friends, lovers, past relationships where you really, really know the other person, okay? That sense of like being comfortable with the familiar, okay? I feel like a lot of people are in general, but I feel like it's more so with Scorpios. I feel like Scorpios, Leo, Cancers. And then I'm seeing that here with you guys. And what that denotes to me is out with the old, in with the new. And I feel like I feel like there's a situation here where you kind of have to reassess. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's best for me, okay? Because there are whole lands to conquer. There are whole territories and new areas that I can, explore. And so wanting to, I feel like, lay the past to rest and just starting your life over, I feel like that's going to be tremendously, it's going to bring a lot more prosperity for you. So you end up with the two best cards in the deck. Okay, we have the Fool. And the Fool, this is the imagery that came up earlier. And it basically denotes, no longer being tied to something, no longer being bound in a situation that's not good for us, and embarking on a new journey towards something new. And I feel for many of you, I'm seeing that white marbled mansion, and the marionette or the scarecrow is walking away from it. So I feel like there was a situation where it was comfortable, it was cushy, it might have even been safe, a marbled house. People can shoot, people can throw stones, but you're locked inside that marbled mansion, and there's enough space to roam. But the marble mansion can also be like an imagery of like that ivory tower, somebody who like learns things in a very intellectual way, but they were never given an opportunity to really put theory into practice. And I feel like you're finally breaking free from that ivory tower or that ivory marble mansion. You're no longer living in that sense of like comfort and familiarity. You are exploring, branching out, putting out fires. I feel, there's that volcano in the background. So it denotes to me like being in a situation where you are putting out fires. You're onto more exciting things. And you're taking everything that you have learned from the past And I feel you're in a position where you're teaching people. You're telling people, here's what I did. It happened to me once. Here's what I did and how I got out of it. And I also feel drawing from past experiences, rewarding those who have been very, very loyal to you, and being available for people that are available to you, that make time for you, that have been really good to you. And then I'm sensing as well, I'm getting a lot of ancestral karma coming through, okay? And I feel like, spiritual guidance, especially from grandparents that have passed on, I feel like there might have been a situation here where it's almost like being in a house, like being in an environment where your grandparents lived in this small town, right? And this is just an example, but I'm feeling it very strongly. Grandparents lived in this small town, gave birth to mom and dad. Mom and dad met and also stayed in that small town. You were born, you also stayed in that small town, and then you start to sense this, you feel this overwhelming sense of like, there isn't enough here for me. I'm a big fish in a small sea. I need to develop to the best of my capabilities, and there isn't enough here for me. And then I'm also sensing as well, if you're in that situation, you're in a very good place because now you have new energy, exploration, okay? Doing something different, not knowing the destination, but knowing that I'm leaving the past behind because it's not enough for me, okay? And then I'm also sensing for some of you being in a situation where you've had to help out parents, okay? It's almost like ancestral karma, right? And here's what I'm sensing. Oh, Capricorns. So here's what I'm sensing. It's like mom and dad might not have made the best choices. We all make choices based on what we're given, based on our environment, based on our education level, based on our own sense of awareness. So this is not to knock the decisions other people make. But I also feel like, they might have been in a situation where it was survival. Okay. So they did the minimum, the bare, like taking care of the bare necessities. And so growing up, you felt like you lacked that guidance. You lacked that mentorship. You lacked that, you lacked somebody holding your hand and telling you, hey, don't do that. You should do this instead because this is going to get you where you need to be. Okay. And I'm seeing, people like, whose parents were, for example, college educated, they can walk their children through the college process. So for example, you have to take the ACT, you have to take the SATs, you have to do that by your junior year so that by your senior year, you have to load up on all these college prep classes so that colleges will look more favorably upon you. And you have to do extracurricular activities. You should also enroll in, extracurricular activities outside of class. So like that guidance, I feel like some of you guys didn't have that. And by the sweat of your brows, the calluses on your fingers, you've had to go about it on your own. You didn't have the guidance. You didn't have the hand holding. And so you were in survival mode. You fought your way and you've had to do it on your own. And I feel like along the way, it's made you really strong, but I feel it might have made you a little bit callous, okay? Kind of like, oh, well, I did this, so everyone needs to be able to do it too, right? And so I'm sensing here, there's a sense of like a paradigm shift, okay? The people that have the privilege, either through parents, through proper guidance, or through the sweat of their brows, whoever makes it up first to the top of the mountain is obligated, no matter how they got there. Whoever makes it there first is obligated to give advice, give guidance to others. Here's how you do it, and here's what I did, and here's what I did that worked, here's what I did that failed, okay? So I feel like it doesn't matter how you got there. Whoever gets there first needs to kind of like pay it forward by giving other people, you know, like the lay of the land, pretty much telling people what they should do. So I'm sensing here a big spiritual karmic energy. It could be ancestral karma that needs to be broken. It could also be, you know, a paradigm shift where we're not doing what we did before. We're opting for a new path, a new way of doing. Because what we did before, it worked for us, but it also made us a little bit calloused. And we don't want that, okay? And then I'm also sensing we have this tremendous sense of like breath of fresh air, you know. His hair is blowing in the wind. He's a leader. There's a whole caravan of people following his lead because they trust him. And so you're thrust in this position where you're going to be exalted. You're in a position where people trust you. They value your, and you know, he's leading them. He's leading the whole, you know, Oregon Trail, whatever you call it. He's leading the whole exodus into this new land, right? But look at the way he's dressed. He's not like a king. He's not a ruler. He's not a tyrant. He's not like an emperor. He's dressed like the regular lay person. And there's a sense of humility associated with it, okay? It's like being one with the people in order for them to accept you. And, you know, this is not about proving anything to anybody. This is just like living a very, very humble life, knowing your roots, knowing where you come from, knowing the struggles of other people so that you can adequately lead them in the right direction. So I feel like there's a shepherd energy about you guys for this month of October.